Today we're going to be talking about the very rare 1990 Market Scene set. This is the Series 3, but this is not the main Series 3 set, but rather the additional Series 3 set. These are Market Scene cards out of New Zealand. There were 3 series in 1989 and 1990. Each series had 20 cards and a checklist. So there was Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3. But then for Series 3, there was a break off of a different set that was similar to Series 3. It had 16 of the 20 cards the same, and then it had 4 different cards, and then with a new checklist then to also identify the 4 different cards. It's supposedly one of the rarest sets in existence that's licensed for wrestling sets, and I've seen numbers thrown around. I'm not going to comment on them because I don't have any proof or anything for the numbers, so you can listen to other people talk about their numbers. I do believe it's rare because you never see it, and it's very hard to get. I actually stumbled upon it because I actually found the checklist first, and this was many years ago. This was before most people that are collecting wrestling cards today were collecting wrestling cards, and I noticed that the checklist was different. So then I had to search the set, and I found the set. And so there's 4 cards. Let's actually just go through the whole set. Actually, we'll go through it, and we'll talk about them, the different cards. So Demolition, this actually, card number 1 is different from the original Series 3 set. The original Series 3 set was Warlord, and that was the Warlord as a Powers of Pain member, not Warlord as, like, Slick's member, where he carried the trident and was managed by Slick. So Demolition replaced that card. You have Earthquake, probably by what many would say would be his rookie card, which is kind of cool. And this one replaced the card of Zeus, who was in this regular Series 3 set. Sean Mooney is in both sets. Hulk Hogan as Rip, the character he played in the movie No Holds Barred, is in both sets. The Macho King is in both sets. Dusty Rhodes is in both sets. Here we have Andre the Giant replacing the Powers of Pain tag team card. Once again, the Powers of Pain, so that was Warlord and Barbarian. We have an Andre the Giant card replacing them. So kind of cool to think that this is one of the rare Andre the Giant cards out there. Heart Foundation in both sets. Mr. Fuji in both sets. Roddy Piper in both sets. Ultimate Warrior in both sets. Rick Martel in both sets. The Widowmaker, that'd be Barry Windham in both sets. Akeem is a new card to this set. In a way, in the Series 3 set, he was with the Twin Towers. He was with his partner, the Big Boss Man. The Genius, Lanny Powerful in both sets. Danny Davis, referee in both sets. Mean Gene Okerlund in both sets. Gorilla Monsoon in both sets. Barry Horowitz in both sets, Jack Tunney in both sets, and then I'll show you the 2. As I told you, this is kind of how this checklist has the new stuff with, like, you see Earthquake and stuff there, and then this checklist has, you see the 1989 copyright on this one. Series 3, you see the 1990 copyright on this one. So there are 4 differences in this very rare set. And so we start with Demolition. And Demolition, it talks about on the back them being tag team champions. They weren't in Series 3. They were in a different, I believe, Series 2, but it could be, I could picture them with a light blue background, I think. So that could be. But on December 30th, 1989, they lost the belts. But it talks about them being tag team champions on the back here. But they are not, they are pictured without the belts. So it could be, I'm just trying to get some date frames here. No championship belts on the Demolition card themselves. But if you read the back, it says WWF Tag Team Champions, whose frightening appearance and spikes, but it just kind of talks about them being terrifying in the ring. So you have them as Tag Team Champions listed on the back of the card. You do not have belts on the front of the card. They lost the belts to the Colossal Connection on December 30th, 1989. They won the belts back at WrestleMania 6. I actually sadly, I do not have a WrestleMania 6 date in front of me, but it would have been late March or early April. I actually think WrestleMania 6 would have been early April, and that would have been early April of 1990 then. So we're just trying to get some timelines here. Earthquake replaced... Well, actually, let's talk about who they replaced, too. They replaced Warlord. The Powers of Pain broke up March 25th, 1990. And for all the dates, we're going by, I'll call them kayfabe dates, like the dates are actually on television, because that's what they would have gone by. Because if it happened like 3 weeks earlier, the WWF at this time would have still thought, oh, it was when it was on TV is the date they broke up. The thing to note about that is, like, obviously, if you're making card sets and stuff, and a team breaks up 3 weeks early, if it's not televised yet, probably whoever's the liaison between the card set and the WWE is probably going to know, okay, the Powers of Pain are going to be breaking up on TV in 3 weeks, but they're kind of broken up. So that makes me think that the date of this set is after March 25th, 1990. And that's going to be the latest date we have for possibly after, because Earthquake debuted on November 11th, 1989. If you remember right, he was a plant in the crowd, I believe West Virginia, if I remember correctly. And Dino Bravo picked him out, and he said, hi, the crowd picked him out. Dino Bravo said he would do push-ups with the biggest guy they could find on his back. He was planted in the crowd. He came down the ring. He was John from West Virginia. Ironically, his name was John, but he obviously was not from West Virginia. And then he ambushed the Warrior, in essence, and started that feud. And so that was November 11th of 89. Here he is in the ring, though, so it's got to be a little later than that. He was in that Survivor Series 89, so he came up right away, and so that's kind of how we have a date. He replaced Zeus, whose last match was December 27th, 1989. So, once again, that's going to kind of be the theme here, is I feel like they got to the point... Well, I'll talk about it at the end, actually. Let's go through the last two that have changed. And still one of my favorite cards there is, because Andre the Giant and Rare, and it's just a really cool picture of Andre the Giant, I think. And he was, I mean, just getting towards the end of his career, replacing the Powers of Pain. Let's look at the back of this card quickly. The largest professional athlete of the world, eighth wonder of the world, long living legend of the WWF, and a member of the Heenan family. So there's nothing that's telling us anything about Tag Team Championship at this time. Like I said, they won the Tag Team Champions December 30th, but here they still mention he's part of the Heenan family. So he broke up with Bobby Heenan at WrestleMania 6. So why did they throw an Andre the Giant card in there if he's now a good guy, but maybe he is good? So I'm actually wondering if they threw him in kind of back solo again, and they should have just changed the narration on back and taken out that he was part of the Heenan family, because I'm guessing from when the set was released, that would have been more correct. And finally, we go to Akeem. This card replaced the Twin Towers card. The Twin Towers broke up on February 24th, 1990. And so we look at Akeem, originally from Deepest, Darkest Africa. They don't mention anything about his Twin Tower days. They just mention that he's Akeem. So, he places the Twin Tower cards. So to me, all the context clues say this set came out after the original set, or the more popular set, the set that there was way more copies of. And so that's kind of like why, and that's the question I do not know. If you look, and we're going to hopefully do a video on it too, the 1989 Classic had some of the same idea, I guess, if you want to talk about it. And I actually know a little bit more about that set than I do about this set. So someday I'll do a video on the 1989 Classic and explain why some of those cards are missing, because that's a set I've actually gotten a little bit more research done on than this set. But this set's just a fun set to have with... it completes your market scene set. So really, there's 4 market scene sets. I think this set came out after March 25th, 1990. I think they made some changes. They said, okay, well, especially, I think the Twin Towers breakup was maybe done quicker than a normal breakup was, because there wasn't a lot of like you didn't see the warning signs of the Twin Towers breakup. You just kind of all of a sudden, it was actually done when DiBiase tried to buy the services of the big Boss Man, and all of a sudden the next thing you know is Boss Man's face. I think Boss Man was becoming too popular. They needed a face. They saw Boss Man as the potential, got him turned face, and then all of a sudden you don't want Twin Tower cards coming out anymore. You don't want the reminder of that. And so we had to get rid of the Twin Tower cards. We broke up the Powers of Pain. We had to get rid of the Powers of Pain cards because they are two totally new people. And Zeus hasn't wrestled since December 27th. I guess you could still have him. He did I believe he did a little bit of, I think he was still seen a couple times after December 27th, but not very much longer. So he's gone. You have a new star in Earthquake coming out. You want to get him out there. Andre card. So the Andre and Demolition just makes Demolition very popular. Let's just throw them back in. Andre very popular. Let's throw him back in. And then Akeem could take the place of the big Boss Man and do it that way. So how many of these are there in the world? Well, there's not a lot of them. And the other thing, the market scene sets are notorious for being in horrible shape. These are in great shape, which is amazing, because I do have market scene cards that are not in good shape, but somehow this set stayed really solid, which is amazing, and I love this set. But then there's the one last thing I want to talk about in this video, and that's how PSA grades. And I don't do a lot of grading with PSA myself, but I do understand that I think that, honestly, I would think that they have their cards seem to sell the best with if you can get high grades in PSA. But I have seen on eBay cards from the more common set that we'll call the 8990 set labeled as 1990 cards and so that bothers me a little bit, because then, so if I graded these to PSA, then would my cards be getting put in the same series as I mean, I know they're labeled these as 1990, but I think at one time, and I'm guessing it's just before they knew that there was this fourth set out there, but you can't label, but then why don't you label those 8990 like the other sets are? So you have some cards in PSA labeled 1990 that really aren't from the 1990 set, and that's going to screw up all of the population counts and all of the set registries. And so right now I'm not really hurrying off to get these sent to PSA, even though I think they would do really well. But I've always been an advocate of, I think PSA should put every one of their cards, they should have scans of them, and every card that they grade should be available via scan, so that we can see exactly what is in each one. And I know that would probably take up a lot of space, but I think that'd be the most transparent. And maybe it's just, or at least maybe for sets like this, and maybe you don't do it for like you don't need every 1990 classic card scanned, but for sets like this that where you're talking hundreds of dollars, I mean, I believe a set like this sold for well over $2,000 a couple of years ago. The PSA grades are going to make a difference, and you don't want someone buying a PSA card thinking they're getting one from the 1990 set, and it's actually from the 8990 set. And so I just think that would be better for everybody. I don't know if they would ever consider that, and what the logistics would be behind that. But so I think I'd have a pretty strong PSA graded set right here. Right now, not like I said, I'm not in any rush to get it off there. Right now, it's just sitting in part of the collection. And it's really interesting to think about, though, what it is. I really love some of the cards in this set, too. Like I said, the Andres. I like the fact that this is the only Hulk Hogan card that I know of that's really about his movie career. And that was a really big thing at the time. I guess if you're still listening, you like wrestling enough that you've stayed with it. Hulk Hogan and No Holds Barred, that was such a big push at this time. The movie didn't do quite as good as they hoped it would do, but they were pushing it so much, and that's why they made a card, I think, of him like that. You got a card of the Widowmaker. I know he's in the 1990 Classic set as well. You have a Genius who's also in a lot of these are in the 1990 Classic set, but Gorilla Monsoon doesn't have a lot of cards, so that's kind of cool. That's a very rare Gorilla Monsoon card. You have I love Gene Okerlund. Danny Davis doesn't have a lot of cards. He does have a card in the 1990 Classic set. This is, I believe he's back to being a normal referee at this point, and this was after his thing. Piper, you can never go wrong with too many Piper cards. A Warrior, which would be close to his rookie, kind of. So that's kind of a cool card. And Macho King, and then even the President Jack Tunney, and then a Barry Horowitz card who was getting just a little bit of push at this time. He's in the 1990 Classic set. We got the checklist, which is kind of cool too. It's got the whole thing on back. So this is the 1990 market scene set from New Zealand. It's very interesting. Please subscribe and leave comments below.